Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's What's for Dinner video, I'll be sharing with you what meals we had this past week. Our dinners were easy to make, budget friendly, and delicious. So if you'd like some weeknight meal ideas for your family, just keep watching. For dinner this first night, I made chicken Alfredo. I had it on my meal plan to do a Cajun chicken Alfredo, but I was cleaning out my refrigerator to make room for groceries, and I had a couple things that I needed to use up, so I changed up the meal plan a little bit. I had a few slices of cooked bacon, some leftover asparagus, and then this package of sun-dried tomatoes. I get these at the Dollar Tree and they really needed to be used up, so I'm going to use that. I also had 3 of these ciabatta rolls left over and I needed to do something with it, so I decided to make some garlic bread to go along with the pasta. I'm going to add some of the Chef Chamois butter to it, and then I had about a half a box of fettuccine in my pantry, so I'm using up several things. So let me show you how I made this. Here I've got a chicken breast that I'm going to season up with some garlic powder, Cavender's, salt and pepper. You can use whatever seasonings you like. You can saute this on top of the stove, bake in the oven. To keep this easy tonight, I just put it into my air fryer. I cooked it at, I think it was 360 degrees for about 8 or 9 minutes. I flipped it over and I cooked it for another 8 or 9 minutes. And then at that point, I took the asparagus that I had chopped up and placed it into the air fryer and cooked it for a few more minutes until the asparagus was slightly tender and the chicken was 165 degrees. Next, I'm going to get started on the Alfredo sauce. Now, if you're a longtime subscriber, you've seen me make this before, but I wanted to share it because I've gotten several new subscribers since I've made this last. As I've said before, there is nothing at all wrong with using jarred Alfredo sauce. Nothing wrong with it. But if you've never tried homemade Alfredo sauce, you've got to try it. It's so easy. It's super quick. It's just a couple ingredients. And honestly, homemade does not even begin to compare with jarred. You just got to trust me. If you've never tried it, just try it once and I promise you, you will fall in love with it. All right, so in this pot, I've got it over about medium-low heat. You can do this in a skillet, doesn't really matter. I'm going to melt the butter. Once that's melted, I'm going to grate in some fresh garlic. Sometimes I just use garlic powder instead of fresh garlic. Either's fine. You just want to cook that for about 30 seconds, and then I'm going to add in my heavy whipping cream. Now, you do have to use heavy whipping cream here. Don't try to substitute it for milk or anything. It won't work the same at all. You need the heavy whipping cream so it'll get thick. So once I've added the cream in, I am going to bring this to a simmer, cook this for about 3 to 5 minutes or until that cream starts to get thickened, and then I'm going to whisk in the Parmesan cheese. Now I'm sure if you use freshly grated, it would be even more amazing than it already is. I just use the jarred stuff. It's easy and it's delicious. A couple quick notes I forgot to mention. I added some of the chopped sun-dried tomatoes to the cream as it was starting to thicken, just so the sun-dried tomatoes could start to hydrate a little bit. I'll also include a link to the recipe that I use in the description box below. I do normally have to add more cream than what the recipe calls for, but that could just be a personal preference. So once I get the sauce to my liking, I'm going to add lots of freshly cracked black pepper. Give it a taste. See if you want to add some more seasoning. I would go easy with the salt because the Parmesan cheese can be a little bit salty. Plus, I'm going to add some bacon. So once I got the sauce done, I'm going to add in my cooked and drained fettuccine pasta. I'm going to add in all my extra yummy. So I'm going to add in the crumbled bacon, the chopped up chicken, and the asparagus, and give that a toss, and then it'll be ready to serve up. Here are the plates. I served up the pasta and added a sprinkle of parsley flakes as a little garnish. For the bread, I spread some of that Chef Chamois butter on the ciabatta rolls, and I cooked this in the air fryer, I think at 330 degrees for about 4 to 5 minutes until it was toasted. I cannot even begin to tell you how delicious this was. So good. Like I said, that homemade Alfredo sauce, it takes less time to cook the sauce than it does to cook the pasta. It's so quick and easy. I highly recommend you all give this a try. Again, I'll have the recipe linked in the description box below. We had tons for leftovers for lunch the next day. And a quick tip, if you've ever tried to warm up Alfredo sauce, you'll notice that it breaks. The butter from the sauce really separates out. There are many different things that you can do to kind of stop that from happening. What I like to do is I just add a little milk to it as I'm warming it up and stir that in, and I never have any problems with the Alfredo sauce breaking. But hope that helps. Like I said, this was so yummy. Dinner the next night was off of meal plan. I've mentioned this before on my grocery hauls, but I know not everyone may watch those. But when I meal plan, I give myself flexibility. I really meal plan to help, get organized, and so I don't spend $300 at the grocery store on nothing. But I give myself flexibility. You saw that with the previous dinner. I was going to make Cajun Alfredo, but I had things on hand I wanted to use up, and it's the same exact thing with tonight's dinner. I had things on hand that I wanted to use up. So let me show you what I'm using. First, I've got some homemade ranch dressing I need to use up. You can use bottled, of course, if you'd like. I have about a half a chicken breast. This is left over from last night's chicken Alfredo. I have this queso quesadilla cheese. I used it a couple weeks ago in a recipe, and I want to work through it. I'm also going to use some of this shredded Colby Jack cheese. I've got some crumbled bacon, some butter, and then I have just a couple tortillas in this package, and they were starting to get a little hard or a little old on me, so I wanted to go ahead and use those up. Okay. These are so easy. I'm sure many of you know how to make quesadillas. I'm just going to take my tortilla. I am adding a little bit of the Colby Jack cheese and the queso quesadilla cheese. I'm going to add some of the crumbled bacon, the chopped chicken, and then some of the ranch dressing. Quesadillas are a great way to use up leftovers. You can really use whatever you've got on hand, leftover chicken, steak, pork, shrimp, other seafood, vegetables, and they're pretty kid-friendly too. I've got my skillet over about medium heat. I'm going to add a little bit of butter and then my quesadillas. I'm going to cook these for a couple minutes on each side until they're golden brown. Now with quesadillas, just like with grilled cheese or grilled ham and cheese sandwiches, you want to make sure you cook them on, I'd say no higher than medium. Otherwise, the outside's going to get burnt and your cheese isn't going to get really ooey and gooey and melted. I know it's hard to tell, but hopefully you can still see the ooey gooiness of the cheese. So good. All right, to serve this up, I just cut the quesadillas in half. I served it with some carrot sticks and ranch for dipping the quesadillas and the carrots. If you've ever been to Chili's and had their chicken bacon ranch quesadillas, I love them. They're so good. These, I don't know if they're exactly the same as Chili's, but they're pretty darn tasty to me, and it's such a quick and easy dinner. I love making quesadillas for dinner. For dinner the next night, I made chicken wings. I've shared these before on my channel, but they were so good, I wanted to make them again. Now, I've mentioned this company before on my channel. I'm not at all affiliated with them. They have no clue who I am, but there's a company here in the Nashville area called the Nashville Olive Oil Company. I think they have a few different locations. They also have a website. They do shipping. I'll have it linked in the description box below. Again, not sponsored or affiliated. I just genuinely like their products, and I like supporting, local small businesses. But like I said, we made these before. They were so good, and I had some chicken wings in my freezer that I wanted to use up. I got these a few months ago at Target. Look at this deal that I got on these. They were originally like $6.78, and I got them for $3 off, so I got them for less than $4 for all these wings. I just separated the drums from the flats, cut off the tips. I patted them really well with some paper towels. And then on this tray, I've got it lined with some aluminum foil. I've got a couple wire racks on top, and then I added my chicken wings. These chicken wings I tossed in a bowl with some olive oil, Italian seasoning, smoked paprika, and some smoked sea salt. If you don't have the smoked sea salt, you could just do regular salt. That would be perfectly fine. I'm going to place these wings into the oven. I bake them for about 30 minutes, flip them over, and then cook them for another 20 to 30 minutes. It kind of just depends on how big the wings are. You just want to cook them until they're at least 165 degrees internal temperature. While the chicken was cooking, I made the sauce or glaze for the chicken. In this small saucepan, I have the balsamic vinegar, honey, and minced garlic. I am going to bring that to a simmer and then cook that for about 10 minutes, whisking it pretty frequently. You want to make sure it doesn't burn. Once it is reduced and thickened, you're going to remove it from the heat and then add in the Dijon mustard. Now, the recipe said to be patient with this and to kind of cook it, low and for that 10 minutes. Patience is not one of my virtues. I was impatient, and y'all, look what I did. This sucker boiled over, and that is burnt vinegar and syrupy honey all over my stove. It took me like an hour the next day to clean it up. So don't be like me. Be patient. It turns out delicious. Just like I said, it doesn't take that long. It's just 10 minutes, but I just was impatient this night and I paid the price for it. But anyway, once the chicken wings were done, I brushed each side with that glaze, and then I popped it back in the oven for just a couple minutes and sprinkled it with some more of that sea salt. And that's it. These are so good. It's something about the balsamic vinegar and the honey and the garlic. They're just yummy. To go along with this, I made some side salads, and that was our dinner this night. For dinner the next night, I finally tried the viral TikTok feta pasta. I've seen it all over the interwebs for months and months and months and months. I didn't know though if it would be worth the hype, but I've seen Taylor Elmore make it several times and she has raved about it, and I've tried several of her recipes and they have all been amazing. So I thought, you know what, if Taylor says it's good, it's probably good. So I decided to make it, and y'all, it was worth the hype. I will definitely be making it again. This was so easy. Let me show you how I made this. I used the same recipe that Taylor linked in her video, so I'll have that linked in the description box below, as well as Taylor's video. I've got my oven preheating to 400 degrees. To my baking dish, I'm going to add in my cherry tomatoes, as well as drizzle some olive oil over top. I'm going to add some salt and pepper and then give that a toss. Now, a quick note, I kind of have the recipe, not exactly. The recipe calls for 2 quarts of cherry tomatoes. I used 1 quart. The recipe calls for an 8-ounce block of feta, but I had this 6-ounce block of feta. I think I got this at either Aldi or Food Lion. Now that I think about it, I think it was Food Lion. But I'm going to add my block of feta cheese, and then I'm drizzling a little more olive oil over top. I'm going to add a sprinkle of pepper. You can also add crushed red pepper flakes. I meant to, but I totally forgot. I put this into the oven and baked this for right at about an hour. Taylor made this chicken to go along with it, so it sounded good to me. I seasoned a couple chicken breasts with some Body of Complete, Tony Chachere's, a little salt and pepper, and I'm just cooking it in a skillet over the stove. The skillet has some oil and a little bit of butter. I sauteed the chicken for maybe about 5 minutes per side until it was 165 degrees internal temperature. I rested the chicken for a few minutes before I sliced it up so that I could serve it along with the pasta. As soon as the tomatoes and feta are out of the oven, we're going to add in some chopped garlic and basil. Once I've added that, I'm going to stir it until it's combined. Now, I was honestly worried that this would turn into a sauce that the feta would melt, but it did. That feta combined perfectly with the juices from the tomatoes, and it was creamy and luscious, so good. Now, to that, I'm going to add in my cooked and drained pasta. This is rotini pasta. I cooked it according to the package instructions. Use whatever pasta you want. I did set aside some of the cooking water from the pasta. So once I've stirred in that pasta, I felt like it needed a little of that cooking water, so I added some of that. I'm going to stir it until it's combined really well, and that's it. When it's the desired consistency, it's done. So to serve this up, I just added some of the pasta. I tore a little bit of the fresh basil on top as a little garnish, and I added some of the sliced chicken. And like I said, this was so good. We'll definitely be making this again. Taylor says she prefers to use like the seasoned feta cheese, and I think that would be really delicious as well. So I'll look for that so that I can hopefully use that the next time. This was a really easy dinner to put together. I mean, I know it takes an hour to cook in the oven, but it's really easy to actually put together. It's really low maintenance. So I recommend you all give this a try if you haven't tried it already. Dinner the next night was also off meal plan, but I had planned on making Salisbury steak, but the day of, that just did not sound good to me, and Sloppy Joe's just sounded really good for some reason. And I already had the ground beef thawed, and I had a package of brioche hamburger buns in my freezer, so I just pulled those out. To go along with the Sloppy Joe's, I'm making this shells and cheese. I've just had this in my pantry, so I'm just going to cook it according to the package instructions. Here are the finished Sloppy Joes. I've shared this before on my channel. They're really easy. I'll link the recipe that I use in the description box below. This is basically just ground beef with some diced onion. I browned up the ground beef during the fat off, and then I added water, brown sugar, Worcestershire sauce, ketchup, some mustard, freshly minced garlic, as well as garlic powder, onion powder, and salt. Combined everything and then just simmered it for about 20 or 30 minutes. To serve it up, I just added it to some toasted brioche buns. My husband likes cheese on his Sloppy Joes, and then we had the shells and cheese. Super quick and easy dinner, but really comforting and super delicious. For dinner the next night, my husband requested that we order pizza. It sounded really good to him, so we ordered from a restaurant in town. I can't remember what this is called, but it's grilled steak, grilled onions, peppers, some Roma tomatoes, and then they serve it with like a garlic sour cream. It's so good. This was our dinner this night. The last dinner in this week's video is also off meal plan, and I know I've said that several times during this video. I apologize, but yet again, I had a couple things in my fridge that I wanted to use up. I had a leftover chicken breast from not last night, but the night before. I had part of a container of some French onion dip, and I've got a few different things of shredded cheese, and so I decided to make this French onion chicken and rice bake. I've made this before a few times. It's from the Plain Chicken. I'll have it linked in the description box below. It's super easy and quick. Let me show you how to put it together. I've got the oven preheating to 350 degrees. I'm going to add my leftover cooked chicken to this bowl. You could use rotisserie chicken, that would be great as well. I'm adding my French onion dip and then a can of cream of chicken and mushroom soup. The recipe called for a can of cream of chicken soup, but I'm using this, that's what I have on hand. I'm going to add in my shredded cheese, and then the recipe called for chicken broth, but like I said, I'm having the recipe, and the recipe called for a whole can of cream of chicken soup. So to do half the recipe, I should be using half, but I went ahead and just used the whole can. And so because of that, I didn't add any chicken broth. I hope that makes sense. So next I'm going to add in my cooked instant white rice. I just cooked this in the microwave with some water according to the package instructions. You could use leftover rice. That would be a great use for that. So I'm going to mix that until it's combined really well. I gave it a taste. I felt like it needed some pepper and just a little salt. So I added that and then stirred that in. I'm going to place that into a greased baking dish. I'm going to spread that out and then add a layer of fried onions to the top. I'm just going to sprinkle those on and kind of spread them out a little with my hands, and that's it. This is going to go into the preheated oven and it will bake for about 20 to 25 minutes. This is what it looks like when it's done. And here are the plates. So to go along with this, I just made some side salads. My husband's salad has some Thousand Island dressing, and I used up the rest of the homemade ranch dressing we had in the fridge. And that was it. Really yummy dinner. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you liked this video. If you did, hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. And I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.